Hey Slush Puppies! This video is Buddy's performance at my PowerPoint karaoke panel at Megaplex last year. His role is to expertly present a topic he knows nothing about using a PowerPoint presentation he's never seen before. It's a great improv game I borrowed from some very clever people at Nordic FuzzCon. Buddy didn't know what was coming, but I knew he wanted to participate, so I secretly tailored his slides just for him. Evil laughter. Okay, I gotta work on that. Before we jump into it, I wanted to share that Megaplex, Florida's furry convention, is going all digital this year, and it's coming up fast, August 21st to 23rd. It's happening on Hopin, where you can watch or participate in panels and main stage events, meet dealers and artists, meet new people, chat roulette style, and then jump into VR chat, where Tailbase VR Crew brings you VR dance parties. Signing up also helps support the con and the Care Foundation. Links in the description. Enjoy the video.
I'm sure that all of you are so curious why I brought you here today. And I'm here to tell you the two most important things that you need in order to lead a happy life with your significant other or not. And those two things are being popular. Okay. So, as you can see, the two things you need in order to get here are an awesome build-your-own plushie and girlfriend. Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at her checking me out right now. Yeah, I can do that look too.
Can I just say he's the perfect guy to give this because he's wearing the pumpkin shirt.
Exactly. And it's, I mean, you know, it's like, yeah, next slide. So, we are literally going to draw our way through the path from 0 to hero, and here's how we get started. The dangers of being popular are incredibly important to avoid. Has anyone, show of hands, played the game Pitfall? Pitfall? Okay. Excellent. The rest of y'all are probably way too young to play Pitfall. But you know that you need to avoid dangers. Say it with me. Dangers. So let's go review what those dangers may be. Next slide. All right. So, as you can see, one of these is not like the other, which I guess means that they're still not like the other. They both are guilty of not being like the other, which is a very dangerous thing in popularity. So here you notice we have this oblong connection between Emily and no one. And that's not what you want to happen. But rather, look over here at how clean and organized and labeled everyone is. Here we have a blurry
Person one.
Person one. It's not just the first two, guys. It's actually blurry, right?
Yes.
So here, the most important part of this is while maintaining your core individuality, you still want the ability to blur and blend with people that you are connected to, such as Paige, who might be missing an eye, and Photo, who's another very important hot topic to talk about. So, what is fairly critical here is you can notice how nearly everything in here is labeled, despite its complete illegibility. It at least is identifiable as something that you're connected to, versus here, where you got your connections, but those connections don't mean anything if they're connected to nothing. So that's one danger very much to look out for. Next slide, please. Really?
You picked the PowerPoint. You're the expert.
This could be you. I'm a ventriloquist here. This could be you. Yeah, exactly. This is a far younger picture. You can see the white sheen in my face here, and like, you know, how my head's still together. So anyway, here, you want to be able to embrace the inner you for this. So even though this exterior is just an example of that, you need to make sure that you're back to that core, that nice, blurry core. Next slide, please. All right, so Who here has ever had unread text messages? Yes, exactly. And it's a very dangerous thing, especially when they say, ooh. Right? Most of the time, we're expecting a W in this position, right? Oh, whoa. So, what's this? It's an ooh instead. But rather, when you encounter this type of unread text message symptom, it feels like this. Who here has felt like this? I'm literally feeling the screen because I know that we feel this when we end up getting inundated with these unread text messages. And when you have unread a message, then you have left a potential friend which will allow you to be connected, and you've left them unread. And when that happens, although you know the validation of being connected, that bubble has no one in it. And we saw how that felt earlier in an earlier slide. Next slide, please. So, do not attempt to take all of those unread text messages and make a cocktail out of them, because they don't blend very well. In fact, zeros and ones aren't tasty at all. So instead, you have to remember to knock off this little green man who's in the image in order to be able to successfully do this. Now, this is a metaphor. This is a metaphor. You have to really keep this in mind here. This isn't necessarily an encouragement of drinking to address that feeling, but rather, by knowing to acknowledge that little green man, it's a reminder that you need to acknowledge all the little green men in your lives. Regardless of how little or green they are. They can be gigantic purple men, right? But you still have to acknowledge them. And acknowledge doesn't necessarily mean slaving over them, but that acknowledgement at least provides that mutual validation that assists you in creating that meaningful connection to a labeled bubble. Remember, we're talking about that labeled bubble, and we want to not let go of that concept. All right, next up. All right, so you'll notice that there is a blue crayon over here, and it's super duper wavy, right? And that's what happens when your blood alcohol percentage increases, just like this wavy blue line. So it's a parallel, except it's not. It's a perpendicular. Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, over here, with the red, green, and yellow, that's way past your blue time. That's what you look like when you're like way out there, right? Who here has felt like red, green, and yellow? Show of hands. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I mean, it's okay if you didn't raise your hand, because either that means you know self-constraints, or you understand that sometimes it's important not to be honest with yourself. Next slide. So, let's summarize some of the pros and cons of the dangers of popularity. I haven't even looked at these. All right, so the pros here: influential, hard work, complaints, high risks, thankless, and expensive. So, if you rearrange the first letters of each of these words, it says the chi. Right? Yeah? And as long as you harness the chi through all of these things, the influential, the hard work, the complaints, the high risk, the thankless, and the expensive, you will achieve the chi of avoiding the dangers of populism. Meanwhile, the cons, which, well, I guess I was going to say you were going to avoid, but not. These are cons that you would want to see how you can embrace into your lives. Just like when you encounter cons in other situations, you want to be able to know how to embrace those too, because you have to take the heads with the tails in every situation. So let's go ahead and go through each of these. Megaplex, Brazil Fur Fest, which was spelled the Brazilian way, very nicely done. Furry Weekend Atlanta, Nordic BuzzCon, anthrocon, and Midwest Furbler. If you look at this list, you'll notice that it says Mbufnam. And just like the chi, you want to embrace the Mbufnam in order to be able to really truly embrace both the pros and the cons. Say it with me, the chi, and Mbufnam. Very good. As long as you're able to take that away, that is the one point I want you to remember is embrace the chi and the Mbufnam. All right, next up. All right, so taking a look at this, you'll notice that it just takes one bad tweet, just one, in order to make or break your career as a popufer. Because we all know what happens with bandwagoning, we all know what happens with call-out posts, we all know what happens with a fursuit paw picture, and it's your choice to decide what your one tweet will be that'll define who you are. Because once you get that one tweet, people will rush at you just like this, just like that. And you want to know what is the quality of that rushing. And my hope is that the next slide is going to be able to evaluate some of the important parts of that quality. Next slide, please. Go away! Go away! Because when it comes at the end of the day, it is you that needs to embrace that individuality. Because once you are able to identify what that singular, blurry core is within yourself, you'll be able to find other blurry cores to connect to as well. And as long as you're able to keep that interconnectedness while still maintaining that checks and balances to evaluate whether or not you've crept into that one bad tweet territory, that is going to be what helps enable you to identify what it takes in order to avoid the dangers of being popufer. So, once again, I brought you all here today to be able to go over the two things that you need in order to be able to bring true happiness to yourself and your significant other or not. And what were those two things? The chi and Mbufnam. Thank you so much.
Yes, everybody!
Mr. Buddy, sir.
Oh yes, I'll take questions like that.
I noticed earlier you said that there was a certain blue crayon that had an effect on our lives. How is that relevant to accepting a tweet within our soul?
The very good thoughts there. So you'll notice that it was a perpendicular, remember? A perpendicular. And when you think about a perpendicular, that's really kind of like a time out, but bigger. Because a time out is just this, and a perpendicular is like that. And it's just a big timeout. You need to take a timeout and evaluate what does the curve of that blue swerve mean. And not a curve kind of like that girl that was over here being like, hey, right? But rather, the curve of the ebb and flow of, I was just talking about this with a colleague the other day, about relevance. You don't need to catch every single tweet, retweet, like, favorite, all that stuff like that. Leave a comment, don't leave a comment. Again, it was that element of searching for that validation. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to, once again, as you phrased it, embrace that tweet within yourself because you know that it is core to you, and be welcome and receptive to feedback as it relates to that by observing what those blue curves are like. Because if you don't evaluate that frequently, you'll end up like red, green, and yellow. Great question. Yeah, yes?
What does that red curve right there mean?
The red curve, right here, it's a sideways S. That's what it means. It's like a stick. Stick. Yeah, exactly. And that's the dangers of being popular to catch it. Like snakes.
All right, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, sorry. I'll be around after the session for questions.